Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee. It's way too early. I don't even have the microphone over here. How are we doing this morning? I hope everybody's well. We made it to Thursday. One more way to go, and then one more day for Saturday to get the boys back. I'm just can't wait to get them back out there, get them playing again, hopefully win, so that we don't have to listen to all this misery talk. It's just been a battle to avoid social media in some ways. I don't know if any of you guys in the Liverpool US fan group, but that is a hot mess with some like ridiculous takes throughout. It's just a great place to avoid right now more than anything else. A lot in the news category today in terms of we had the Carabao Cup draw yesterday. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we have the Champions League draw coming up today. So we will do that as well and maybe come up with like a wish list. So if you're watching us live right now, hop on, let me know who you guys would like to see there. Some intriguing options. There are some scenarios that can be really good, and there are some scenarios that could be pretty rough. So we'll take a look at that. Muta Keter is with us. Hopefully I did not butcher your name, but good morning, Chris. Scott is like, how about City finally getting a real draw? He says, yes, let's start talking about that. Throw in your comments as well in terms of what you guys thought of the Carabao Cup draw. I thought it was probably the best ever, not only in terms of what we got, but more about what everybody else got and like the matchups overall. I thought it was just like couldn't have come up with something any better. So let me put that on the screen real quick. Look at some of the matchups we have there. And then like we'll kind of like start discussing them right here. And here we go. Okay, so I think the biggest thing of this was that we were able to, first of all, we got Derby County, I feel like, and we're home, so it makes our draw very easy. Well, not very easy, but I guess definitely a lot easier than some others out there. And I think the biggest thing is a lot of Premier League teams matching up against each other. So when you look, you have Wolves, Leeds, Forest, and Tottenham, and it's at Nottingham Forest. And we've seen already, right? Like their home field advantage is for real. That City has been kind of like waiting for this for a long time. And, we played them last year and had a tough time with them, and they were in the championship. So that's definitely a tough matchup for Tottenham. You have United going against Villa. Let's see if Gerrard does something there. Bournemouth versus Everton. You keep going. Obviously, the big one, City versus Chelsea. Kind of like what Chris was saying. Man, they normally don't get anybody serious the first 3-4 rounds. They usually cruise to the quarterfinals with not seeing a Premier League side. So that is huge for them, for those two teams to kind of like go up against each other, because obviously one of them is going to be automatically eliminated. Newcastle, Crystal Palace, I think that's another good matchup. Arsenal, Brighton, that's another great matchup. You look at all these like matchups of like solid teams, and you got to figure a lot will get eliminated. And, Chris is right. That also means that, a lot of clubs will go a lot farther as well, like the smaller clubs, because you look at some of these other matchups, there will be a lot of teams going through and kind of like, advancing in the rounds. And I know, especially for those clubs, income wise, status wise, and for their fans, it means a lot to kind of keep going on this cup. You got Bristol City going against Lincoln. You got Burnley going against Crawley. A lot of matchups where, Leicester City is going against Newport County, the way Leicester City is, and the whole Fofana ordeal. I don't know if you guys have been following it, is what. And Chris is right. I agree, Chris. Arsenal, Brighton. I think when you look at that schedule, Arsenal, Brighton, and obviously City, Chelsea are two like exciting matchups to watch. It's not only great that they kind of eliminate each other and we get them out of the way, but it's like kind of like an exciting one to watch as well. Hopefully the games do not line up at the same exact time, so we can kind of take a peek at those games, because nothing like seeing those two battle it out. And that's another thing is when you have these like League Cup games midweek and stuff, we're already kind of starting behind the eight ball in the Premier League thanks to our own doing. But it does help the cause where perhaps we can rest or like rotate the squad a little bit and keep going, while even if they do keep going, a team like City has to face Chelsea and has to face a bigger battle midweek, hopefully kind of like tying them out, not being able to rotate as much, or like I say, kind of like wearing them down a little bit to the weekend game where they, hopefully have a tough matchup right afterwards or whatever. But got to keep the hope alive, people. Got to keep the hope alive. So I really like the matchup. I think it's kind of like golden for us. You know what else is golden for us is having another character show up. And I know there were a lot of theories out there about Gally possibly being a vampire. And we have eliminated those groups because he is alive and well during daytime as well. Gally, what's happening? You have coffee, tea, gin, hot chocolate. What do you got?
I hide that shit in a covered cup so nobody knows exactly what he's drinking.
So we were just talking about like the Carabao Cup matchups. That is coffee. Yeah, we'll take your word for that. There's a lot of theories that people throw around what's in their cup and what's in Macca's cup, what's in my cup. But I'm going actually with Daffy this morning. So it's all good over here on a Thursday morning. So we're just talking about the cup matchup. What do you make of it? I was just talking about like how not only it's a good draw for us, but just eliminating a bunch of Premier League teams because they're matched up together is golden.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of an exciting draw yesterday. I'm not usually really, I'll be into the Champions League draw today, primarily just kind of following it on Twitter as it gets released. The pomp.
So you're not going to watch the cringy show because you gave me crap on Discord for calling it cringy. I was called a dad, people, because I called the Champions League draw cringy.
I think more or less it was that you told us how you felt and how we should feel, like my dad would. But I probably won't watch it because, I spent that hour of my life that they'll never give back to me after last year when I watched an entire draw and then had to come back 2 hours later and watch it again because those idiots couldn't figure out how to pull balls out of a pot when they're already like, I'm a firm believer that this is like the NBA lottery. I think these groups are already known before they go on TV, and these idiots weren't even able to run their own sham of a show. So, yeah. So, and then with the Carabao Cup, it's usually like, the Champions League, they'll have like Sting come and pick the balls out. The Carabao Cup, they get like, some kid from lower end, London who's, been playing his squawk box on the side of the tube, so it's not exactly the same excitement. But when you get this many big clubs matched up, I mean, the idea of City and Chelsea playing each other in the absolute first match that they could is outstanding. And then some of those like lower teams, the Brightons, they also got Premier League draws. There are a lot of sides out there that I think this tournament is built for. And we got lucky with the draw. Let's be honest. We drew a weakened Derby team. We should be able to field a reserve side and still be able to get that, result. So I'm excited. I'm excited to, we joke that we don't have enough reserves to fill a Premier League roster. So it's going to be interesting to see what the kids look like in this match. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see exactly what some of these big clubs do. Because I think there are some clubs that are going to straight up bow out of this tournament.
Yeah, it's like I say, for us, I think it might be the best possible scenario, not only because of our matchup, but because of all the other matchups involved and the fact that, we'll have a lot of teams eliminated and out of our way as we kind of like go after this again. Redman TV have a great UCL draw watch along. It's pretty funny. Yeah, honestly, maybe if it was in midweek and if I could gather the crew, it's something that maybe we can look into moving forward. It's just, takes so long and so cringy to watch. It is just, yeah. But then again, hey, I get crap for calling it cringy, but that's a different story. Okay, so speaking of that, let's see what we have and what your dream scenario is. So let's go. We'll go I guess let's make a wish list, right? See who you would rather have out of these groups. So give me your wish lists of matchups. Who do you want to be?
So if we're getting, out of pot one, if we're going to pick up one of the easier sides, I am going to root for Eintracht Frankfurt or Porto. Let's be honest, the odds of us not drawing Porto are slim to zero. If there is a Portuguese side, we will be drawn against them and we will beat them miserably. That's kind of what the history of the Champions League has been for the last 10 years or so, or 8 years, it feels. So I strongly feel like we will get Porto. I think if I was then rooting, I would take Eintracht Frankfurt next.
Okay, keep going. Who do you have on pot three? Because now you eliminated Benfica, for example, based on, if you get Porto.
If we got Porto, we'd be eliminating Benfica. And if we got Eintracht Frankfurt, we'd also be eliminating Borussia Dortmund or even Bayer Leverkusen. So I'm going to say here, we will get Inter Milan. And we'll have a rematch of last year's knockout phase. And honestly, that might be the toughest team outside of maybe Dortmund. But I question whether Milan isn't the more tough setup anyways, because I think they're more equipped to win in Europe than Dortmund is.
But who's on your wish list?
Oh, I'm sorry. On my wish list, I would probably, I guess, Napoli or Shakhtar Donetsk. Yeah, I don't like that Napoli side. They've lost a ton of talent, Napoli.
They have.
I'm not a big fan. They've taken a big step back. But at the same time, I think pot 3 is actually a pretty strong pot for the third level of this tournament.
Yeah, actually it is. I mean, I still don't understand how these rankings work. I know like they put like the league winners and stuff like that, but for us to be on the second one and like some teams to be on their first, just not makes sense. Alan is back with us. Alan, good morning. Yes, you are late. So yeah, there'll be punishments issued for that later on. But yeah, Chris says Porto, Salzburg, and then Club Brugge. The Club Brugge one is the only one that I think I'm not totally there with. I think I'd rather have, I know when you look at this, I know Barak in our Discord channel, and obviously one of our the post-match writers every week probably would love to have, or maybe he would actually love to avoid the team, his hometown team from Israel, but probably the most suitable matchup, but the distance traveled is what irks me on that one, like a midweek travel all the way over there for like an away game and stuff like that. I think that's why I'm going. I just watched Copenhagen yesterday. That is a solid team. I mean, they were playing Trabzonspor from Turkey, and I was rooting for Copenhagen, and they did not let me down. That is like a pretty darn good team. It reminds me, it's like a very basic version of the old Barcelona tiki-taka, like a lot of short passes, but some athletic guys on the wings. I mean, that's a solid team that if we can avoid it, we should probably avoid it. I was going to go with like Victoria Pilsen or Dinamo Zagreb. I know they would be physical, but I don't think they would be able to match up with our like interplay and stuff like that. So that probably is my dream scenario. See, Chris, like Napoli, I agree with you that they have been weakened, but still something about Italian teams that never sets me at ease. First of all,
we don't win there usually.
What was that?
We don't win. Notoriously, we don't win matches in Italy. I know we won 2 last year, which was kind of shocking. We won both the matches at the San Siro against both Milan teams, but we've struggled against Napoli in the Champions League. I just look at that pot 2 and question where we end up drawing. And I just think it's a really strong, or pot 3, I'm sorry. I think it's a really strong pot. And in pot 4, I didn't really say which one. I just want as little travel as possible. You should be able to get 2 wins out of anyone who comes out of the bottom tier. Rangers, though it sounds wonderful to just, jump up to Glasgow, it's a train ride. It's not even a tough commute, but it's always tough to play at Ibrox. They guarantee a red card, and maybe 7 hard yellows on top of it every match that they play. So I think avoiding Rangers and their crazy supporters and the crazy drama that comes with it would be nice. So maybe even like, you get Celtic or you get Marseille and you might be better off because it's a little less physical and it's a similar level of travel. I'm not really big on the French sides either. So, I'm not really as worried about that pot 4. I think from a story standpoint, having it be Rangers would probably be the most for the newspapers, for the neutral, for the articles. But I'm with Chris 100%. The place is literally feels like it makes Millwall look like a walk in the park.
And that's, with that pot 4, I think I'm more after, and probably like Dinamo Zagreb and like Victoria Pilsen is not the perfect matchup for that one. But yeah, Marseille would probably, Chris says Marseille probably ideal now that you mention it. It would be in the sense that they're going to play very open. They do have some like good players, but that league is pretty watered down. So I don't know if it's going to be as physical as some of the other matchups. I guess for that pot 4, we're going for, like least travel possible, or at least not a long travel, like, going to like avoid to Israel or something like that. And ideally not a team that's just going to go out there to just like physically punish more than, try to match us in terms of like games. So now that we got our dreams over here, let's crush those dreams.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can we talk about the real stuff? This is you, Timucin. Can we talk about the nightmare scenario?
Yes, exactly. Here we go. Let's talk about what's really going to happen. So obviously, no City there. Who do we get? Do you think? What is your gut feeling for pot 1?
So if you told me just looking at this list, who are we going to get? Purely because my social media feed can't handle it, and I'm not sure that my heart or my anger levels of arguing after 5 or 6 months of listening, but we are absolutely 100% going to get Bayern Munich and have 2 weeks of Sadio Mane theatrics everywhere. From should we, shouldn't we, can he score against us? Why did he celebrated at Anfield? He was smiling after he scored a goal. He didn't even do that when he played for us. So my gut tells me, because I believe that there is a fix and this is all done for TV. There's no question we get. It is made for TV. I'd say we get Bayern Munich, but I honestly believe the worst draw is PSG. Because I actually believe they're figuring it out. And I think the moves they're making and the way that they're starting this season is really, really strong. And not just strong in their shitty French league, but strong in the manner in which Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe are starting to click. And if that works, it is a lookout for Europe type of a scenario because they can just focus on this where we have to focus on midweek matches in the league as well. So for me, we get Munich, but I would avoid Paris Saint-Germain as much as anyone else.
Alan says a fix. Seriously, no. I mean, let's.
It's soccer. It's professional football. There's never been anything untoward done with money.
Yeah, it's like professional wrestling over here, but just in the soccer format. Let's hope. Yeah, I have a gut feeling that we're going to get somebody like AC Milan in the first one, and we're gonna kind of like skate. I agreed. I think the worst matchup would be PSG. It's too early for. I mean, we almost have to think of like a producer director, right? It's too early to put us in the same thing as Real. You got to wait for the later rounds for that one, for that drama. So I don't think we get Real after Bayern, and obviously, we're not going to get City. I feel like, I'm hoping we avoid PSG, but then we still get the one that's probably the toughest after them, which is probably AC Milan. Eintracht Frankfurt is like a weird one because, like last year, they had that run, and they can be dangerous. But in the preliminary rounds, Eintracht Frankfurt played actually Fenerbahce in the earlier rounds, and in both games, Fenerbahce almost won away, and they're just not a good team when pressured. They just got lucky because Fenerbahce can't do that for 90 minutes. But, they just don't play well against teams that press because they're not as used to it. So I think that will be an easier matchup than Milan for us. So I'm going with AC Milan for that one. But yeah, let's not get PSG. The less I see of Neymar, the happier I will be. So in real terms, who do we get in pot 3?
I mean, I kind of said it earlier. I just have this gut that we get Inter Milan, which obviously we couldn't get if we got AC Milan or Napoli, obviously. So I'm going to stick to kind of that mindset that the fix is in and we're going to have Bayern. And then, it could basically be any of these sides other than Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Leverkusen. So I'm going to go with my first one. Say we end up with, one of the Italians, Inter Milan or Napoli. I think the worst matchup is probably Inter Milan because I just don't believe in Dortmund, honestly. Haven't in a few years now. So, for me, that would probably be both the worst travel and the worst overall scenario.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you saw what happened to them this weekend. It's a team that is pretty fragile. Was it this weekend or last weekend where they conceded 3 goals and after 88th or something like that and lost from being up 2-0 at home. So I don't know but they do have dangerous players as well. It is Borussia Dortmund. I actually think we do get Borussia Dortmund as the worst case scenario because then that's the interesting matchup over there. So we're going to be in a group. I get the feeling we're going to be in a group where everybody is pretty challenging. So I say we get Borussia Dortmund. So AC Milan, Dortmund, and actually I have Marseille at the end as to kind of round it off to a decent leagues, top teams from decent leagues, not the group of death maybe, but in terms of every game, anything can happen kind of group is what I'm expecting. So who do you think we get out of pot 4?
I'm actually going to say that we end up getting, and I don't know why this is, I feel like we're going to end up getting Rangers or Copenhagen. I could see it being Bruges, but, again, I just have this gut feeling Rangers and Celtic will both get drawn into groups with Premier League teams because they don't get 3 home matches in Scotland at 2 different cities in the Champions League group stages very often. And the idea that they both qualified makes me feel like, they're going to highlight this a bit and probably put some marquee matches. And I think as great of a draw as it would be to see Barcelona have to go play at Rangers, because it would just be fun to watch them cry at the things yelled at them that they can't understand in Scottish. But I just feel like it won't be. It'll be, it might not be us. It might be City going up to Rangers. It might be Spurs. But I just feel like these Premier League teams are going to be slotted in with the Scottish teams to make sure that this maximizes, because this is the last year that this is supposed to be the format, right? Next year is supposed to be when it goes to the crazy expanded 11-team groups and all the craziness. So for me, this is their last hurrah with the Champions League as we've seen it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't stack this thing as best as they can to try to come out with, their top 16 teams, basically bracket it right down to Liverpool playing City in the final.
Man, if you guys thought Gallia was cynical on the Monday Night Podcast, in the mornings he's a little more cynical. I guess that wears off throughout the day. We get the least cynical version at night, but in the morning it's full blown. Chris has Bayern, Inter, and Zagreb as pretty bad. Yeah, that's probably the worst.
Probably the worst,
I would think, right? Yeah, it was I'm not sure if it is 24 or 25 or not. I mean,
you could be right, Chris. I thought I heard it, but then again, this whole World Cup is throwing me off. The calendar's different. They've changed different things. By 24, 25, someone might be trying to talk Super League again. Who the hell knows? Oh wait, this is the Super League.
This is the Super League. Yeah, this is their version of the Super League.
Can we look at pot 2 real quick one more time? If it's still up there? If you don't have it anymore.
Hold on. I'll pull it out for you. Don't worry about it. Pot 2. Let's go.
So this is it's a little interesting for me, having 3 English teams, right, in pot 2 does make this pot pretty difficult for City. And City normally skates with these basic, easy groups, right? So it doesn't shock me. They'll get Sevilla, right? Probably.
They
Or
get
Leipzig.
Leipzig, yeah.
But if they don't, they literally get Barcelona, Juventus, Atletico. None of those are easy two-legged ties for them. If I were rooting for City to get a tough draw, which only gives us better chance in the league, because we know one thing, right? Pep is going to prioritize trying to win this tournament. Eventually, he's got to win this tournament. So, I would love to see City end up with Atletico Madrid out of this draw. As much as Barcelona's improved, I think City's a better version of Barcelona with their soft play and the movement and the players they have, where I think Atletico Madrid could do some real damage to City, both physically and mentally, the way that they play. So I would love to see City get stuck with Atletico, and then maybe even they pick up like a Dortmund, because it would be beneficial to everyone in the Premier League if City was given a tough draw. But I will say this, I genuinely believe Liverpool, City, and Spurs will find their way out of the knockout stages. I need to see more from Chelsea that they can score goals, but I think this is actually bodes well for the Premier League's, continued dominance of Europe.
Yeah, I actually like this is like right before like you joined, I was talking about, why I like that going back to the Carabao Cup, matchup. That's why I like that as well. It throws a weak game, against a tough opponent for them, as opposed to they've always kind of skated with some base games, against like, championship teams or like Division 2 teams and stuff like that, where they can try out whoever they wanted. This gives them, even if it's a single game, this gives them a tough matchup midweek. So I do actually like that in that sense as well. But this should be interesting, not to watch though, people, maybe follow, because it's definitely not. What is it to watch? It's not interesting to watch, but what is it, Gally?
It is cringy. Yes, all day, every day.
It is a cringe fest, people. It's like the number of like fake smiles on that whole ordeal and the stupid one-liners that, should be left to our podcast over here at best is just like mind-boggling. So I'll be avoiding it, but probably we'll get like the updates and like follow it through that way online. It will be open. It will be an open window as I work, which means I won't get a lot of work done, but that's a different story. Pretty much. Yali, I don't know about your cup, but it's time for the second cup over here. Daffy is almost empty. I noticed, by the way, when there's somebody else with me, I get the chance to drink more, whereas I kind of have to keep rattling on. So time for the second cup. Thanks for joining us this morning. Hey, bring on the cynical attitude every morning. We're ready for it. Any Brandon Rodgers hate? Because it's a tradition. We have to have a Brandon Rodgers bashing. Not that we're bashing him.
Well, I mean, he came out. It's shocking to everyone, especially us Liverpool supporters. Brendan Rodgers came out and said something, had a lot of teeth, and kept smiling after he said it. But he made the comments about the Fafana deal. Supposedly Chelsea is walking away from the table because they offered $70 million and have been turned down because they want a world record fee, which basically means they don't want to sell. I give him a lot of credit, but when it comes to bashing Brendan Rodgers, it isn't that hard because we might as well get the shots in, because I'm not sure he's going to have a job by the time the World Cup comes around. Because between now and Monday, or whenever the window finally shuts, I expect them to lose at least one more, maybe two. If Chelsea really wants Fafana, they'll get this deal across the line. And then you're talking about maybe even Madison and Timucin as well. And that's just too much loss for them without buying. And Harvey Barnes doesn't score, and the biggest move they made this offseason was giving a 35-year-old guy an extension. So, they bought Patson Daka. They don't play him so they can play Jamie Vardy in his tramp stamp. It just doesn't make sense to me. I wish Brandon Rodgers the best, but I genuinely think he's, his bloom came back on his rose as he was bringing Leicester up. And there were people talking about Arsenal, talking about United, maybe coming back to Liverpool someday. And I just think it's showing that as he hits levels that he can't move past. And it's easy to make fun of a guy who basically is a punchline every time he opens his mouth. And it's one thing to like talk like a coach like Klopp when you have the confidence and the demeanor and the like half funny, half I'm serious. Brendan Rodgers always comes across like a clown, where Jurgen Klopp comes across as like genuinely likable. And I just think that people kind of laugh at Brendan, not with him. So, we'll all be laughing at him probably at some form of commentary when he's looking for his next job and Pochettino's walking up the table with a Leicester team with less
Not
talent.
That we're bashing him, people. Not that we're bashing him. And Alan Walnut says he's up for the Stoke job. Yeah, I think he should have sold while the stock was high and bailed. And the opportunities were kind of there, but nobody really went for him. I think everybody knows better. Everybody had seen it.
Could you imagine Brendan Rodgers as the manager of Stoke with how often, like with all the wind and all the talk it is of just throw the ball into the box and Brendan Rodgers' team literally gives up a goal on a corner every 3 attempts that they take one. They would lose every match like 11-0 in League One, just playing like Route 1 football, and they would just get destroyed. It would be Stoke City yearning for the days of, David Moyes to come back and they're 4 points in 40. Unbelievable.
Yeah. See, mission accomplished. Rodgers bashed, so we can move on with our days. Let's hope we get like a good draw tomorrow morning. We'll talk a lot about that draw and see how we ended up. Did we get the wish list or did we get the death list? We will find out. Gally, thanks for joining us, and thanks for all those listening live and commenting. See you guys tomorrow morning. Have a good day, everybody.